Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 31st episode of the Exploring Antinatalism Podcast, a podcast all about the subject of anti-natalism created by anti-natalists. My name is Amanda Oldphan Sukenick, also known as Foreverwolf Films on YouTube, and today I'm speaking with the exceptionally talented co-founder of both Childfree India and Anti-natalism International, Anugraha Kumar Sharma. Welcome to the Exploring Antinatalism Podcast, Anugra.
Oh, thank you so much, Amanda.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
It's my pleasure is all mine. So first off, I would like to say that Anugra recently released a blog post on the ANI website all about himself. And I just want to say I highly recommend people also go check that out. And part of why I'm bringing it up is because, before you had released that, and despite the fact that we spent quite a lot of time together over the last 10 or 11 months or so, I didn't really know much about your life. And so that offered a great window into you. And I'm just very excited to learn more about you today. In your words, Anugra, who is Anugraha Kumar Sharma?
Anugra is, I don't know what to say. I hate talking about myself.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a graphic designer, as you said earlier, and I enjoy doing graphic design, but I hate that I have to do it for survival. You know what I mean? But I would love to do creative work. I also do, basically everything that has got to do with multimedia, including audio and video editing, making websites. I enjoy doing all this, but I wish the work for survival was not attached to this. So that's that's what I am. I'm one of the two children to my parents. My parents are retired school teachers, but unfortunately, they are not educated. I mean, when I say they're not educated, they're ignorant about uh, you know topics like anti-procreation. They are totally unmindful of privilege. They don't know what bigotry is all about. They just went through their routine lives, just like how this entire society goes. You just followed the society. But I was the one who decided to go against it right from the time of my,
Right.
let us say, 20s, early 20s. I decided to walk against the societal norms. So that's me.
Yeah, you were very uniquely rebellious. I think I got a
Yes.
sense of, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's good. That's good. So speaking a little bit more towards the graphic design stuff. I mean, you are exceptionally talented with all the computer related stuff that you do. All the and for those of you that don't know, listening, Anugra is the one responsible for really all of the graphic design that comes out of Anti-natalism International, the website. So I just was curious, Anugra, where did you learn all of these skills? Were they things that you taught yourself, or did you study this in school?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question you asked me. I don't know whether I should say I'm proud of it, but uh, I'm a self learner. I learned it all myself. Uh, I had a classmate who started a multimedia institute, a school, a private institution that teaches multimedia skills to students. That is when I was hanging out with him when he began this venture. That is when I got introduced to this world of multimedia,
Okay.
multimedia. So I picked up some skills there, and then I started teaching students in my friend's own institute, and then I went on from there. The first company that I worked for was an American company. My boss was American. He set up a company in Bangalore, the place where I live. His wife was an excellent graphic designer. I learned a lot from her. She was my inspiration. So that's where I picked up creative skills when it comes to computer design, and then I went on from there. I learned web design and also audio video editing. I try to learn animation, but that's too much of a thing for me. So I'm not an animator, but I do graphic design and web design and audio video editing stuff.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I had a feeling that was sort of the case, that you'd sort of had the opportunity and then hit the ground running and had done a lot of this like teaching yourself, and yeah, it's phenomenal. I've always wanted to ask you, I mean, given your graphic design skills, do you have an interest in making art, outside of computer-based applications? Like, have you ever done any painting? Do you like to draw? Is other kinds of art making something of interest to you?
It's interesting that you guessed it right, that I learned it all myself. Yeah, when it comes to art outside the computer, I mean, fine arts is what we call here. I used to do a lot of sketching and painting when at school, but then my parents are. I used to love painting and sketching, but my parents were, forced me to. They used to force me to focus only on science subjects. In India,
Yeah.
there are two occupations. You either have to become a doctor or an engineer.
Yeah.
All other occupations are useless. So when I think back about it now, it's very unfortunate. I was even discouraged from taking part in sports. So it's only about science subject. I have to excel in science so that I get to become an engineer or a doctor. That's unfortunate. But I wish I'd pursued that. I wish my parents had some sense and allowed me to pursue drawing and painting and fine arts.
Yeah.
But then at least they allowed me to go to music school. So that's when I learned the keyboards. So I love music too.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I play the keyboards.
Oh, okay.
They at least allowed me to go to music school because my mom is a musician. I mean, she has a music sense of music. My grandfather used to be a violinist, so that was one good thing. But I wish I had pursued fine arts. Yes.
Well, first of all, I had no idea that you were a musician on top of it. So we'll have to explore that at some point. I'd love to hear you play sometime. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that, in your I'm sorry that you didn't get to pursue it, in your younger years, but it doesn't, you have an excellent understanding of composition. So it doesn't surprise me that you have like a background in painting and drawing and wanting to do those things. So that's, yeah. So I hope perhaps you get a chance to, do those kinds of arts now if you still wish to. Okay, so moving on to some of the anti-natalism. Why are you an anti-natalist, Anugra? And in addition to that, why are you an EFIList?
Yes, I'm an EFIList because I would say because I'm a Marxist. I'm a radical Marxist. I mean, I draw a connection between radical Marxism and EFILism because radical communism looks for radical thought, critical thinking, where you are deeply troubled with the existential reality, the apathy of the system, capitalism, ruining the climate. That is when I wanted to find out what is wrong with the world, what is wrong with the society. That led me to Marxism. I mean, as a thinker, as a critical thinker, I mean, even critical thinking, I had to develop it myself. Nobody taught me, but fortunately, when I started reading about why is there suffering in the world, that is what led me to Marxism. For me, capitalism is the one that is enhancing, not only causing, but enhancing the suffering of human species as well as non-human species. And when it comes to EFILism, for me, nature. I understood that nature is the one that is causing widespread suffering, has been causing widespread suffering, not just now, not just in the past 200 years, not just in the past 2,000 years, but since 4.5 billion years. That thought, if Marxism gave me answers about existential suffering, EFILism gave me answers about the entire historical suffering throughout the evolution of species. So that's now all my life's questions are answered after I came across EFILism.
Yeah. So well said. I totally get that. How did you first discover EFILism?
That was when I discovered EFILism when Pratima told me about it. We were planning out. I was designing the invite, the promotional material for the first meeting. I remember putting a phrase that "Save the Earth" phrase in that post, in that promotional material. Then Pratima corrected me. He said, "We are not, we don't have to save the Earth because we are victims of the terrorist Earth. Earth is the real, terror, nature and Earth." Then she told me about EFILism. Then I went online, and the first thing I found is Inventum's videos. I went through a couple of videos, and I went through there is a website, Wiki. I think it's a Wiki on EFILism, Wiki page, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. So that is when I read the entire thing, and then I mean, it was like just a wow moment for me. Man, this is the gospel, gospel of suffering. So the reality of, so that was the moment when I learned about EFILism. I need to thank Pratima for that.
Yeah, I mean, for those listening, the previous ANI Spotlight episode was an interview with Pratima, and I love that part of her interview where she talks about how she was very nervous about telling you about EFILism because she wasn't sure how if you'd be upset about it or anything. But it's just so funny because obviously it hugely inspired you. So it's a very interesting
Exactly.
story. I love that.
And there was a time when I told Pratima, just before or on the day of the event that we had in Bangalore, the first
Yeah.
Childfree event.
Yeah.
I told Pratima, I think I'm an EFIList now. So I just told this to her. She said, yeah, I'm an EFIList too. So that was a what do you call, reality hitting me
Yeah.
after I
For
went through
sure.
all that.
You also describe yourself as a minimalist quite often. I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit about what that means in your life and what that means to you.
Yeah, as in this work to survive system, capitalism system, my parents are not privileged enough. They don't have enough of ancestral wealth where I can, earn money by rental income and all that. So my parents are not so privileged. But then I had to actually struggle hard to find jobs, to survive, and then hope not to get fired by companies. It's a hire and fire system in India. I changed a few jobs, and I found out. I mean, I actually wondered whether I should keep doing this throughout my life. I mean, should I keep on changing companies, wait until they fire me? And then there was a time where I quit working for any employer, and I started becoming working on my own. I started working as a freelancer, working from home, or a small office setup. So that is when I sensed a little bit of freedom. But then I came to know that even working on your own with a kind of lifestyle that you try to match it with your peers. When you compare with your friends, they have a car, they have a bike, and they spend lavishly on big restaurants where they go out for dinners and all that. If I want to, project myself as a competitor in that kind of a status system, I will have to, keep on slogging myself, even as a freelancer, try to earn so much money, save it in my bank, and then try to show off to my friends that I'm having fun in my life. There was a point in my life where I decided I'm not going to do any of that shit. I'm going to, reduce my lifestyle, go bare minimum, try to reduce my monthly expenses, try to live on meager, resources, and lessen my own suffering. Try to reduce my own suffering. So that was my intention of minimalistic, and I didn't want to care what the society thinks about me. So that was again a radical thought.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for you for doing that, and it's very, very difficult to be a freelance artist. So it takes a lot of hustle. So much respect to you for that, of course. I was wondering if you can tell me your thoughts a little bit about as you know, anti-procreative thought is sometimes split into 4 categories: child-free, anti-natalism, vehement, and EFILism. Can you tell me a little bit about your thoughts on all 4?
Yeah, sure, I can. I came to know about VHEMT before I came to know about anti-natalism. That is, again, through Pratima, of course. I found it interesting. VHMT, I found it interesting, but I didn't want to identify with it because I found something missing. Why only humans should go extinct? But then that led me on to child-free. The child-free concept kind of, that is my introduction to these 4 streams of anti-procreation ideas. The first one was VHEMT, second was Childfree, third was anti-natalism, and fourth was EFILism. But obviously, as I said earlier, I love EFILism the most out of all these four. But then
Yeah.
when I came across VHEMT, it didn't stick on to me. I didn't get too much excited with VHEMT. I don't know why. And then Childfree kind of I agreed. I agreed with child-free choice, the child-free choice. Child-free kind of resonated with me, the child-free idea. And anti-natalism, yes, I also read about anti-natalism. But when I read about EFILism, that's it. I didn't want to consider any of these. But we are using the term child-free for child-free India as a brand, as a movement, because that is something which is populist, which many people will connect with.
Right.
So we are using that, but I am a EFIList by nature. Yes, EFILism is in my blood.
Yes. No, but I think that you guys have been so wise to go with the child-free, term for what you're doing, because obviously I think, and you guys have been very successful going that route, and I think you were very right to do so. So thank you for that. Thank you for your thoughts on all four of those. I'm curious, how does your anti-natalism and EFILism intersect for you with other social movements such as atheism, veganism, and the right to die?
When it comes to atheism, yeah, I became an atheist. Being a theologian, I studied theology for 3 years, and then studying theology actually made me an atheist. I'm happy that I'm an atheist. Theology helped me to, get into some critical thinking. I'm so glad that my professors helped me in that path. When it comes to atheism, I don't identify myself as an atheist. I don't like to, because several atheists are, behaving in a very toxic manner on the internet. They almost, many of them are even trolls. Their only primary purpose seems to be to mock the theists. As a communist, when somebody asks me, what are you? Are you a theist or an atheist? I tell them I'm neither. I'm neither a theist or an atheist. I'm a communist, because atheism is ingrained in communism, but communists are, empathetic towards the theists. The communists believe that these people are believing in God because they are not able to think critically. They are somehow looking at God as someone who will, lift them up from their suffering. So as a communist, I look at these, the religious, with some empathy, but I don't mock them. So I don't identify myself as an atheist, but technically I'm an atheist. When it comes to anti-natalism and atheism, working together, there are many in our forums, in our Child-Free India forums, there are many atheists who are anti-natalists. So I see a very strong connection between atheism and anti-natalism. Yes, uh, for obvious reasons, there are very few EFILists in India, and vegans, yes. And the interesting, what do you call, analytics that I found among the people who are following us in Child-Free India is, vegans are kind of divided. There are, good number of vegans who are theist, who are religious, or spiritual, in that category, and there are vegans who are atheists. So in my network, I have come across vegans who are more spiritualistic than, non-religious. So that's an interesting. Several of Indian Child-Free people are atheists, and the vegans seem to be predominantly spiritual people. It's a very interesting mix that we have here in Child-Free India network.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the right to die, Anugra? Can you also give your thoughts on
yes,
that?
I forgot. Yeah,
That's all right.
Yeah, right to die. Yeah, right to die is something which is connected to dignity of life and death for me. That is a priority. If you, I would put right to die even above atheism, above EFILism, because right to die is something which will actually give suffering problem that we have on planet Earth. Although if EFILism for me conveys why there is a problem on planet Earth. Marxism for me, tells me how we can reduce that problem, how we can reduce suffering. EFILism tells me why there is suffering. Marxism tells me why, how can we reduce that, minimize that suffering. And right to die, voluntary euthanasia is something that, for me gives a solution how to end that suffering. So that's how I see EFILism, communism, right to die. So that's the thought process for me. It's been this thought I've been birthing, I've been experiencing this thought process for a while now, but maybe around 2 years. That's interesting. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense for me, at least. EFILism, Marxism, euthanasia.
Yeah, I've never heard you quite articulate it in that way, but I think I understand. I definitely get, I think, where what your thought process is on that, and thank you for clarifying your position on atheism. I know we recently had a kind of a little bit of a discussion about this during one of our ANI meetings, and I think, like, if I'm not mistaken, like, your position on atheism is sort of like you are an atheist, but it's sort of like how a lot of vegans are, with, like, they don't want to call themselves vegans because the community is so toxic. So it's like you don't want to wear that mantle because of how toxic the. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand that. So thank you. I wanted to. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I wanted to say, like, you wrote a little bit about this in your blog post. You really do have this very unique distinction of being really one of the only anti-natalists, and certainly one of the only EFILists, probably the only EFILists I know that went to seminary school. And that is really quite unique. And I was just sort of a little bit, I know you've talked about it before, but I was curious if you could speak a little bit about your experiences going to seminary school and sort of how that influenced you.
There was a time in my life when after my graduation, in India, graduation is a very important milestone where young people try to get into the world and try to earn some money and try to become rich and, buy stuff, show off. So after my graduation that I did not complete, although I attended college for 3 years, I was wondering what career option that I need to choose. But I wanted to get one big question that was plaguing my mind out of the way, answered, comprehensively answered, not just half answered. And that big question was, is there God? That is when I told my dad, I want to join a seminary to, to figure out this. My dad is a religious guy, and even now he's religious. I don't know. He will die as a religious person, but fortunately, he allowed me to join the seminary. So I did a lot of research, read a lot of books on theology, and then the first question that was answered was, there is nothing called heaven and hell. So there is no day that after you die you will get you can expect some fair judgment for all the suffering that you went through because of different people cheating you or doing injustice to you. So there is no scenario where after you die you will get judgment. No. So that got sorted out. And then that was the time I started becoming agnostic. And then later on, I made that journey. It was a 6 months journey from being an theist to agnostic to atheist. So my teachers were intelligent and also honest enough to teach me about the errors that are there in various scriptures, and the fact that all these scriptures were written in the pre-science era. So we need to look at scripture with a different mindset and not literally interpret what is there, considering the developments after the pre-science era. So that was a relief. I came to know there's no God, and that was also a shocking realization that I have to face a lot of injustice in the world, and I may end up not getting justice at all.
Yeah.
So that was a shocking reality, at the same time a relief that I don't have to fear about a place called, whether I'm going to get a visa to heaven or hell. Okay, so that's sorted out. So I came to know I'm on my own now. So whatever I do, I have to, fight with the system, which is very unequal. So I realized that I'm on my own and I have to fight the system alone. I will not get much support from my religious parents. I have to face a lot of injustice. I have to face a lot of apathy. I have to face a lot of, judgment. They judge you based on whatever you believe. So I was prepared, but at the same time I was not happy that what I'm going to face in future. So that's my journey from being a theist to atheist. Yes.
But Anugra, you are also in a small minority of anti-natalists who are also parents. I know this is, of course, a big source of sorrow for you, so I'm very sorry for that. I will say your daughter seems like a very, very cool person, and you guys seem to get along really well, which is great. Can you talk a little bit about your experience of being an anti-natalist parent and what that's been like for you?
How I wish I can rewrite, I can rewind the history. So before I got married to my wife, we discussed that we are not going to have children. The main reason why we decided not to have children, because my wife is suffering from chronic epilepsy. Because if she becomes pregnant, it's going to be very risky for her and the child, which is, that she is carrying. So I thought, okay, it's a good idea to marry this woman. She's a chronic epileptic, and she will understand that it's very risky affair to go through childbirth. And we discussed, and she agreed. Okay, let's not have children. But then, unfortunately, my biology teacher at school did not teach me not to trust the safe period. The safe period. Women after the menstrual cycle ends, they think that the 2 days or 3 days immediately after the cycle ends is a safe period where you don't, it's not necessary for you to use protection.
Right.
That's what my wife believed, and I had no clue about this because I don't carry I'm a male. Men don't pay attention to such stuff in biology classes too. That's unfortunate. That's because of patriarchy.
Right.
Unfortunately. But then I thought, okay, she's a woman. She knows her body very well. Maybe, her judgment is right. I trusted her. She said, no, let's not use condom because it's a safe period. I took a chance. I wish I was, aware of the risks involved in such acts. And she comes after a couple of weeks, or couple of months, I guess. Yeah, maybe a couple of months. She says, I'm pregnant. The first thing I said was, okay, we need to get, come, let's go get the fetus aborted. That was my first immediate reaction. But then in those days, we did not have this abortion pills that now you get over the counter. So we had to visit a medical facility to get the fetus out, even if it is within 2 months period. But then my mom, my religious parents, my mom is so religious. She said, you guys are going to kill God's gift. And my wife also is unfortunately religious. So, these two women, they kind of thought over it. They said, oh, okay, let's not kill God's creation and God's gift. And my mother went one more step and said, God will take care of the child. That was, I didn't want to, I was too nice of a guy. I was not a Marxist then. I was not a radical Marxist then. I wish I was. I was too nice of a guy. I didn't want to, I want to give the freedom of choice to women. I didn't want to overrule their decisions. I wish I had, enforced it a little bit more. I wish I had insisted on the abortion part a little bit more. But since I was too nice a guy then, I thought, okay, these women want to take chances, let them. But then another thing happened when I used to have a two-wheeler then, a bike. When my wife was in her 8th month, she was pregnant 8 months. And, some roads in India are very bad, potholes and all that. My bike went over a bad road and she fell down. She was sitting behind me and she fell down. And the irony is, I was happy that, okay, now the child will not survive. It will not come out. I was kind of happy. You won't believe it. I was hoping that, some miscarriage will happen and the child will not, come out and face the world. That was my immediate reaction. But unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, that didn't happen, and the child was born. That was too costly a risk. But then my daughter is 19 years now, and she, although I had differences with my wife. I separated from my wife uh, 5 years, I think around 5 years after marriage. I used to visit my daughter occasionally, but without my influence, my daughter started thinking critically. She developed critical thinking by herself. I don't know, because of some teachers that she had or some peers that he had helped her to think critically. And she came to a decision to never get married on her own without my influence. And she also decided not to procreate. So that is
Wow.
a relief
Yeah.
for me. Yeah. So that's
She's very
she's not
smart.
going to make the mistake. Yeah,
Yeah.
she is. Yes.
Yeah. I know that recently you've had, an opportunity to speak with more antinatalist parents. And can I ask you, like, how that's gone so far? Has that been a positive experience for you?
Yeah, I'm actually excited to be part of this anti-natalist parents community. Uh, I want to, get involved with them and then share each other's experiences. I'm so glad that I'm part of that. We've had a couple of meetings so far, and there's a big meeting scheduled in the near future. So I've heard of a couple of parents share their experiences, and I think it's very therapeutic for them, for these parents who wish they had not procreated. So that creates some kind of a, it's a very, bonding among parents, and it's kind of very therapeutic. That is what I felt. It gives you that
Yeah.
sense of belonging to a community. So that's a huge plus for anti-natalist parents. And I think if we take this movement a little, forward, there'll be many anti-natalist parents who will, join us. And
Yeah.
there's a huge scope for this kind of a concept to expand. Yes, I see that.
I see it too. I think it's I think it's a phenomenal initiative that Danny and AO have started, and I'm just really,
Yes.
really excited to see where it goes. And I'm happy for you guys, like that because antinatalist parents definitely need, well, first of all, are such an important voice in the antinatal world, and so I'm glad that more of a community is being built around people with that reality. So that's really phenomenal. Do you read a lot of books about antinatalism? Like, have you read Better Never to Have Been? Do you how do you engage with like older antinatalist material?
As a scholar, I mean, when I say scholar, I did a lot of book reviews. I wrote a lot of papers while I was in the seminary. Uh, my method of reading books is to first skim through it, just scan through the book, and then try to get the gist of it, and then, if needed, read the entire thing in great detail. That's what I did with David Benetta's book. When I read his book, I got the gist of it. But again, as I said earlier, EFILism is my passion. I would read anything about EFILism in great detail. I would sit and read every word of EFILism. So I'm not so keen about anti-natalism. The reason is because I came across one review article written by a Marxist on David Benetta's book. He rightly points out that David Benetta talks about, in his book, he focuses on the suffering of the privileged, like the suffering that you experience when you're stuck in a traffic jam. David Benatar fails to even address the suffering of the working class. The people who are oppressed by people who are after profits. The people are not paid, they're not paid livable wages for their labor. So David Benatar doesn't even bring, the suffering of the working class in his book. Although the Marxist who reviewed his book agrees with Benatar, he brings out this very critical point, which I completely agree with him. And I personally wish anti-natalists, speak more about the suffering of the working class, and I plan to do it more in the future. I would love to do it.
Hey everyone, I just want to take a quick second out of your regular Exploring Antinatalist podcast episode. I'm Lawrence. I'm one of two hosts. Amanda is the other host of the new Anti-natal News podcast. This is a new podcast run by Anti-natalism International. It's a podcast that's going to be monthly, released on the first day of every month. It's going to be covering the big topics both in and out of the anti-natalist community. It's available on the Annie YouTube channel, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and it will be coming to more platforms soon as well. If you want to let us know about any upcoming news stories relevant to antinatalism, you can email them to us at antinatalnews@gmail.com. And if you want to keep up to date with daily updates for Antinatal News, then head over to Twitter and follow the @Antinatal account. Sorry again for the interruption. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
Okay, so now I'd really like to ask you about Childfree India. One of you are the co-founder of Childfree India, so I just wanted to first off ask you how did you and Pratima first find each other?
Yes, myself and Pratima, we were working before we decided to start Childfree India. Myself and Pratima were working together on some social justice related projects with some NGOs, non-governmental organizations. That's where we connected. Prior to starting Childfree India, we worked on different, suffering, elevating initiatives, social justice activism. So that connect happened, and then we evolved that to Childfree India because it's all about suffering. I'm a person who loves to. The love is the wrong word, but I focus too much on suffering on man of species. So when I met Pratima, that was a connect with an organization which works to alleviate the suffering of the underprivileged masses, and then that's when she in one meeting. Actually, I remember that very vividly now. In one such meetings, Pratima introduced herself in that meeting as someone who's who desires humans to be humans to go extinct. That is how she introduced herself. I didn't hear her introduced like that anywhere else before.
I love that.
Yeah. She said she believes in she advocates for voluntary human. I said, wow, come on, this is something different.
It's amazing. It's just amazing.
So she was basically talking about VHMT, of course. So that was when we decided, okay, let's do something. We need to.
That's incredible.
So from social justice activism
to extinction.
To extinction. Yeah, but for me, when you talk about extinction, for me, extinction is a very how would you say it? For me, it's a very wishful thinking. I consider extinction as wishful thinking because that's something that is not, you can't practically achieve that. But then my focus, as I said earlier, is to reduce the suffering, minimize suffering of species that are already existing on the murderous planet Earth. So
right.
That is my focus. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you guys have just had the whole short but amazing history of Childfree India is really incredible. Because obviously in 2019, the world, basically was focused in on Childfree India for at least a brief time there because of what happened with Raphael Samuel. So that just had to have been an incredible experience. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like when there was so much media attention around all of that? What was that like for you?
That was that's interesting. I'd love to talk about that. Since you guys know that I'm a graphic designer, I also learned a bit of digital marketing. How to get things viral on the social media. So I kind of was becoming expert on that during that time. So I told Pratima, let's take this photos of us holding posters and then put some provocative stuff in that. Like, stop making babies is the most, it's a very provocative thing. And let's trigger people, just go out there, put this in the social media, and let's see how the trolls come and, enhance our voice. So I actually predicted negative marketing. I played with negative marketing there. So I knew that we're going to be trolled. So I put that, and within 24 hours, the trolls came down on us. And that was good news. I was enjoying because I love controversies. I love negative publicity.
Right.
I love creating negative publicity, but as long as it's within the limits, of course, not,
Of course.
I'm very well aware of the limits. So that was fun. And, the people all over India came and attacked us, on our, verbally attack us, digitally attack us rather, on our posts, provocative posts. And then media observed this, and then Rafael, somebody interviewed Rafael, and then the media connected this social media post that went viral, and they connected Rafael's story, and they started calling us. Either me or Pratima or both of us are continuously talking to journalists almost practically every alternate day. So, and we were struggling. I mean, I was a new EFIList, newborn. I mean, my entry to EFILism was very new. I was wondering how much of EFIList idea should I reveal to this journalist? What will they think about me? So I was battling with that during those initial times.
Yeah.
But I used to sugarcoat it a little bit and then tell them. And to some journalists, I actually told them on their face, the reality from the EFIList perspective. And some of them, for obvious reasons, they didn't publish what I actually said. They also sugarcoated it and then put it in a politically correct way. So that was a very interesting experience. And then, the one media channel did, they did a 5-minute piece, a video piece.
The Quint.
On us.
Right.
Yeah, the Quint.
Yeah.
That is something which I would consider the turning point. So
absolutely.
When Quint published that video, the real Childfree people and the real anti-natalist who were hidden all along, they were not voicing out. They were, feeling very cornered. They were scared to, voice out their thoughts about child-free choice and anti-natalism. They found their voice. That video helped them to find their voice. And they came out in the comment section. They said, "Oh my God, you guys are exactly talking about what, I've been thinking of all these years." And that's when we started forming communities, digital communities in different social media platforms. For me, that is the turning point. Yes.
And, I have to say, it doesn't surprise me that Quint video caused that much of a reaction, because I have to say, when I saw that, in my bedroom here in Chicago, it was unbelievably inspiring to me too, for a whole host of reasons. I just thought you guys were such unbelievable rock stars. You know what I mean? It was like, look at what they're doing in India. Like, they're making it happen. So brave, just so ballsy. I loved the fact that you guys were, not just speaking from Childfree, not just speaking from Vehement, not just speaking from anti-natalism, not just speaking from EFILism. It was all these different forms of anti-procreative thought all together. And that's one of, I think, the crown jewels of what, Childfree India is, and what you've kind of brought to the anti-natalist community. Like, that needed to happen so badly. So, and that piece of media is such a great example of that. And you guys please go ahead.
I keep visiting that video even now.
Yeah.
And even now people are commenting there. Even now people are saying, "Oh, I'm so glad I found this video. I mean, I connect with what you guys are saying. I completely understand." Even now, almost every day there's a comment there. So that's like, very surreal for me, especially. So
I'm sure. Well, I think it's got well over 100,000 views now. So it still has a lot of power in it, and I think it will continue to. And you guys are still doing a lot of media, even now, right? Just recently, correct?
Yes. Just last week, Media House in the place where we live, they did an interviewed myself and Pratima, and that video probably hopefully is going to come out on Women's Day.
Okay.
I don't know, by the time this podcast is released, it would have already released. That March 8th happens to be Women's Day. It would have been out by then.
Amazing. What would you, aside from, obviously graphic designer and marketing is a huge part of what you do for Childfree India. But what would you say your primary role in Childfree India is, as, one of the co-founders? Like what does it look like to run Childfree India on like a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Like, what do you have? What all do you have to do?
Oh yeah, I need to tell you that I have two different mixed feelings in that. I am so thrilled. I kind of, I'm one of the admins of the Childfree India Facebook page, and also one of the admins of different WhatsApp groups of Childfree India, which are, regionally segregated, and there's a one big all India WhatsApp group. I really enjoy interacting with people that are on the Facebook page, Childfree India Facebook page. Kind of people that follow that page are amazing. They really prep up my spirits. That is what I would say. They're very woke, and what gives me more joy is that the analytics of the Childfree India page, states that there are more women following that page than men. Can you believe it?
You believe it?
52%, yeah, 52% women follow the page, and then 47% men. Of course, 1% is the other genders. So that is something that makes me so happy, that the majority of the followers of the page are women, are majority followers of that page. And then when it comes to the kind of reactions that I get on the page to some of the posts that I put is very encouraging on the Facebook Childfree India page. But when it comes to WhatsApp, it's it's a third world war happening in WhatsApp groups. but I have fun there too. People know. Okay.
It's great that it's so active. Those WhatsApp groups are so active. So they're very heated. I do peek in there, sometimes, and they're very, very heated. But I mean, it's just great to see as much engagement as it's getting.
Exactly.
Even if it's a little bit negative sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And some people leave, some people join. I don't bother much about that at all, because I believe in when we talk about child-free choice, which is the freedom of choice that is given to women. I allow the freedom of choice in these social media forums. If people want to leave, they're free to leave. I'm not going to ask any question to them. Why did you leave? No, no questions asked. People are welcome to join. But at least I'm happy that some women are able to voice out.
Yeah, I just out of curiosity, I mean, besides Pratima and yourself, do you have any kind of ballpark idea of how many people in Childfree India are EFILists?
I would say around five people.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's more than I thought there'd be.
Oh, okay.
So it's interesting. Yeah. And then, do you have any idea of like how many might be vehement, more on the vehement scale, or?
Yes, there are a lot of vehements.
Interesting.
And most of the vehements are vegans.
Yeah.
Because there's a close connect between that concept.
Yeah.
Yes, there are, and there are some people who come up with some illogical reasons why they chose. When they give the reasons why they chose the child-free choice, they come up with some illogical reasons. But that's okay. I mean, we don't judge them on that. But yeah, that's fine as long as they are child-free. Yes, but vehement people, yeah, I would say there are some around 25% of our entire following are vehement people. Yes.
Wow, that's a really large number. I'm surprised to hear that. Okay, interesting. You do a lot of stuff with memes, in the social media work that you do. And you even had a meme event, like a meme creation event, which I thought was a brilliant idea, for Anti-Natalism International. So can you talk a little bit about the memes that you create for Childfree India specifically, and sort of like sort of the strategic nature of how you create memes and attract attention that way to the Childfree India page?
Yes, I think unfortunately, I wouldn't say fortunately, but unfortunately, people are so busy with their career choices and their work in their quest to make money and survive and thrive, whatever. They have very little time to read a lot of content, so they are kind of attracted to the short memes. They want to spend some time, 10 seconds on a meme, get the sarcasm in that meme, have a good laugh, react, and move away. Unfortunately, So as a marketing strategist, I have to cater to that demographic. I have to suppose
Yeah.
if my social media platform needs to get more following, I have to use a lot of memes. Use a lot of funny content. I mean, when I say funny, humorous, and also
Yeah.
sarcastic content. So there's a lot of brain work involved in that. You have to be, the more sarcastic you are, the more reactions that you get on social media. So I would say, unfortunately, memes play a big role because people are too lazy to read long stuff.
Yeah. You have a bit of
I
like
wish it
a
was not that way.
you have like a bit of a love-hate relationship with that method of
Yes,
communication, right? Yeah.
but then I want to surprise myself by trying to bring in some very big idea into a small frame and throw in a lot of sarcasm in it. So I say, oh yeah, good. So
Ah,
I want to explore that part of mine. There was a time when I dreamt of becoming a stand-up comedian.
yeah,
so, so at least I want to do some kind of a stand-up comedy on my memes. Try to be
yeah.
sarcastic as much as possible.
Well, I think that just speaks to, yeah, I mean there's so much art and comedy that
Yeah,
can be
exactly.
found through this activism. I mean, it's surprising to a lot of
Yeah,
people that that's true, but it is. So
yeah.
I'm glad that you're getting a chance to do that through that, even though it's not a method of communication I think you'd prefer to do, as you've said in the past. So okay, yeah, that's interesting. What are some of the things that you most want to do with Childfree India, like once Corona is over and things are a little bit more uh free, because you guys aren't really able to have like regular meetings at the minute, right? You were having more
Yeah,
like in-person events. So
yeah.
what are some of the bigger goals that you want to achieve with Childfree India later on?
Uh, we have a few collective goals, as you can call them, as the core team of Childfree India has some set of collective goals. For me personally, I still, the words of Inmendum echoes in my mind always. The only, the best way and the most natural way to make people go child free is to educate them. A simple high school education, you know, is good enough to make people think that, procreation is a bad idea. So for me personally, I would go all out to just ensure that uh, people, especially women, are educated, and especially try to bring in some critical thinking aspect into the education. Unfortunately, the education system, I don't know, some people say it's the same thing all over the world, but in India specifically, it is just to learn something just for the sake of passing the exams, scoring high and then find a flashy career. That's the entire system is all about. There is no scope for critical thinking. There is no scope for knowledge at all. I mean, there's absolutely no scope for knowledge. Whatever so-called knowledge that you gain should be good enough to help you get good scores at the end of the academic year. That's a very, very unfortunate situation. As a trainer, I mean, I love teaching. As a trainer, I find that huge gap in the Indian context specifically. And I would just ensure that I kind of complement the education system in India by ensuring that the people are actually really educated. That's it. I would
Yeah,
not even
yeah.
talk about child free. Just educate them. They will have the mental capacity and to reason out whether they should procreate or not. I strongly agree with Inmendam on that. He always emphasizes that.
Yeah, no, there cannot be enough words to express how important just having access to a decent education is, and how
Yes.
much that influences people's procreative choices. When people
Yeah.
are allowed to become intellectual, and they just have less kids. It's just a fact. So I agree with you completely, and obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about this shortly. But obviously, you've shown your commitment to education through the development of projects through like Anti-Natalism Academy. And again, we'll speak a little bit more about that in just a minute. But first, I actually wanted to just talk a little bit about Anti-Natalism International. We are two of the founders of Anti-Natalism International, our collective, soon to be organization, hopefully. um, how did you, I honestly can't remember, how did you become involved with ANI, Anugra?
Pratima told me there's a bunch of guys we are trying to get together and form an organization. I think you'll be able to contribute, for the building of this organization. Why don't you join? I said, yeah, why not? I mean, I knew you, and I knew Mark. Yes, I knew, but Lawrence was a surprise, introduction to me. I mean, and of course, Laith. I did not know Laith and Lawrence before I came on the Anti-natalism international platform, but I'm so glad that I met these people.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that this unit here, they are so mindful of, they have, their thinking is very balanced, so that is something which
I agree.
I like working with this team, where there is so much of cohesiveness, understanding, because they're all coming from a really educated, truly educated background. So I'm so glad, and I feel I belong to a really empowered, enlightened group of people who can actually come up with so many programs that could help a lot of people. Yes.
I feel exactly the same way. I feel so lucky to have found all of us, all the members of ANI, and Tejas included, of course. And you did know Tejas before this.
Yeah, I knew Tejas before, yes.
Yeah. I think of the founders, Tejas is the one I've known the longest, actually. But yeah, I think we've done an amazing job in terms of communicating with one another, because we've definitely had disagreements, but there's never been. It's always been very, very productive, regardless of whatever comes up. So yeah, I agree with you completely. What have you enjoyed the most so far working with ANI?
The weekly meetings. I look forward to that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
For me, that's like a Sunday church service.
It does sometimes have that air to it. Yeah.
I mean, what the Sunday church services don't give you, I get here in this. The collaborative element, where each of us bring our individual strengths together and try to combine it and create some value out of it. The weekly meetings is one thing that I enjoy, and also I love the fact that each member of Anti-natalism International is so committed to the cause.
Yeah.
Since I think about suffering always, I would also say that each member is so much committed to reduce the suffering, minimize the suffering of species.
Yeah.
And also minimize it greatly by not procreating, of course, obviously.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed a couple of programs that we did as Anti-natalism International. The quiz was phenomenal. I enjoyed the quiz so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so much fun. And I'm beginning to like this hangouts. I don't know why. I love these hangouts.
I do too.
In the India time, the time zone that I live in, the hangouts begin at let us say around 9 p.m. in the night, and they go on till 3 a.m. Can you imagine?
It was. I was talking to them at midnight last night. Midnight my time.
Yes,
it went all day. I loved it. Yeah.
I love I love the discussions that happens in Hangout. I don't feel like going out of those Hangouts. I'm really enjoying. These Hangouts, and I wish these Hangouts happen more often and more people join. So I'm learning a lot about artificial intelligence, about right to die. In the previous the Hangout that happened most recently, we discussed so much about right to die, and also about leftist thought in anti-natalism. I was so glad there are two leftists in the who came to the hangout. So that was like family for me.
Personally, what are the biggest goals that you have? The biggest things you want to achieve through ANI? I mean, obviously we have so many initiatives and plans and ideas, and what does your ideal future look like for Anti-natalism International?
I would say two things. Personally, I would pursue two things. One is obviously right to die, voluntary euthanasia. And second thing is do whatever we can through whatever support we can get to minimize suffering of the people who are going through the most amount of suffering. So I'm a suffering guru. I get so passionate about suffering. I mean, I look at different ways to reduce suffering. So my mind is only on these two things: right to die and do certain activities that is going to help reduce the suffering of the people who are oppressed the most. So that's what is there in my mind.
No, beautiful, absolutely. Okay, well, let's in our remaining time together today, I'd love to talk a little bit about some of the projects that you're spearheading that are sort of like all Anugrahs, and I mean we're obviously working on them together, but you are the one that's really taking the initiative. You're, as we say, bottom lining on them. So the first one is a Childfree Love, which is sort of a collaboration of sorts between Childfree India and Anti-natalism International. What can you tell me about this this program that you've worked on? Like, how did this come about, and what is it going to look like? Yeah, tell me all about Childfree Love. Yeah.
That's a very interesting question. There are a lot of these young chaps in so many of our WhatsApp groups, both men and women. They come to the group hoping to find a child-free partner. They've been asking for it. Some of them have been asking for some kind of a solution to help them to find a child-free partner since day one. And at the same time, there have been voices within these forums where they tell people, why do you want to get into marriage, and complicate your lives, try to live single lives, stay single, don't get married, enjoy. In spite of this, other people telling them, discouraging them from getting married, these people are still persistent. They want to get married. I don't know, for whatever reason. So I've been looking at people asking for this, some kind of a tech solution, digital solution, or a website or an app where they can go and put everything about themselves and see anybody matches them. I was, earlier I was wondering, why can't they chat with people in the group and try to find the partner? But I don't know why they were feeling hesitant to find their partners in the groups that are already in. Maybe I'm guessing that maybe they are looking for someone that they're hoping that different people, other child-free people who are not there in our WhatsApp groups will join the matrimonial, matchmaking website, and they will somehow find their ideal partner. They've got a lot of hopes and dreams. I hope they find their partner.
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, let me do it. Let me do a website and launch it, since I'm a web developer. So and that's we are planning to launch it on March 8th. That is International Women's Day.
Okay.
This will be live by the time this podcast is released. So I'm really hoping that people will find their partners. So I'm excited the way this website is coming up.
No, it's incredible because you got this thing up and running like so fast. Like you really are like a wizard with this stuff. Yeah, it's incredible. So I'm so excited to see it. Like it will be a website, correct? It's not an app, but perhaps that will come later. Okay, yeah. Sorry,
you can.
No, go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Yeah, when we were talking about this website being launched, there are some very staunch singles in our social media platforms. They said we want a platform only for singles, and these are the people who are never going to get married. So we want a support group only for singles, especially those who are above 35 years. The logic is once you're crossed once you're above 35, there's very less chance that you will think of marriage.
Yeah.
So today, on the day of the recording of this podcast, I've launched a group, support group for singles who are never married singles who are above 35. So we've officially launched a support group for these singles, but this is specific to only the geographical location where I live, that is Bangalore, Bangalore city in India. So that is another interesting development that happened recently. Yes.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, so to give our audience a little bit of context, like Anti-Natalism International had a number of different, like we talked in our launch event of like wanting to do a campaign of like, getting different already existing dating apps to include like a child-free or anti-natalist filter. And we still kind of want to do that. Like, I still think that is something we may explore later on. But, because again, Anugra is such a wizard of like putting this kind of stuff together, we had wanted to do an international antinatalist dating site, but we ran into all kinds of very interesting kind of cultural and maybe even some legal issues of like why that wouldn't at least immediately be possible. So that's, just explaining to our audience sort of like why, at least for now, this will be like an India only app. And it's really kind of a test platform in some respects. I mean, just looking towards like the larger possibilities of what we could do later on. So I wondered if you could speak a little bit. You spoke a little bit about this already, but can you speak a little bit towards sort of the circumstance of like dating in India? Like, from what you've told me, it's a bit frowned upon. Right. And you could actually get into a bit of trouble, correct? If like dating is encouraged as opposed to matrimony.
Yep.
So can you speak
Exactly.
a little bit about that? Yeah.
Yep, sure. Dating is still a taboo in India because that's kind of this Western culture, that is not Indian culture, kind of, taboo. So the reason why it is a taboo because Indian parents try to control their children a lot. They are authoritarian. There's a lot of authoritarianism in Indian families. I mean, for example, my mother is still trying to control me. I'm 46. So this country, Indian children face a lot of control issues with their parents.
Yeah.
The reason why parents try to control them is because they try to hijack them with ancestral wealth, ancestral property. You get a share, you get a chunk of whatever I own, only if you listen to what I tell you, only if you marry the person of my choice. In some cases, at least you get married. Don't be single. At least get married to someone. Then you get, then you get my favor. I mean, I will be able to, I will be. They even threaten them with, using death. I will be able to die happily, peacefully only if you get married. So unfortunately, many girls in India are forced into marriage because of this authoritarianism that runs in Indian families, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And these girls, these women, even though they are child-free, they hardly have any option but to get married. Child-free women are hoping that they somehow find, empathetic, educated, child-free partner who can respect them and also consider them as equals, because we are a country where we have still not criminalized marital rape. So that's a very sad situation. So hope things change in the future.
Me too. It's a horrible circumstance. See, this is just so. This part of this project is well, the whole project is fascinating, but this specific aspect of it is so fascinating to me because it really does show that, like, if you were trying to build an international anti-natalist dating website, you probably would have to have different versions for each country, or like a lot of countries, because the sensitivities are so different across the world. So I just find that such a fascinating aspect of this initiative. So yeah, thank you for your window into that, Anugra. So it comes out March 8th, and definitely look forward to that, everybody. Hey there, everyone, it's Amanda. I apologize for the short interruption, but I wanted to make sure everybody knows that this month there was actually a special bonus episode of the podcast that you can find only on the Exploring Antinatalism website, exploringantinatalism.com. The episode is a written interview with Polish painter and musician Michał Getrak, whose series of paintings entitled Anti-natalism are being exhibited in Poland for a second time now. It's a great interview, and Michał's work definitely deserves your support, so go follow the link below and check out the interview. And now, back to Anugra. So let's talk a little bit about Anti-Natalism Academy. Can you tell me all about that project? Obviously, it's one of the biggest initiatives that Anti-Natalism International has. I'm so excited to see like how that progresses. and that's very much, your baby, so to speak. I mean, it's really a phenomenal project. So yeah, please tell us all about it.
Through Anti-natalism Academy, I hope what I hope to see is to people who have already opted for the child-free choice and who are, call themselves as anti-natalist, feel confident about the choice that they have opted for, and not feel discouraged at all. I mean, the main motivation is to ensure that they can boldly tell the society the advantages of, the value of being child-free and anti-natalist, what it means to them. Child-free person is an informed child-free person, and similarly with anti-natalist. I believe that the stigma attached to this is one way that can be addressed. That will be reduced. The stigma will be reduced.
Yeah.
As and when these people become woke enough about their choices. So that's what I have in mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think that approach is so desperately needed, and I think empowering anti-natalist or anti-procreative people and giving them that confidence, there really hasn't been a mechanism for that yet. And so I think that that's such an important aspect of what you're building. So what will sort of this look like? Is it a platform that you're building? Is it a series of videos? Is it a little bit? I know you're in the process of building all of this, but I mean, yeah. What can people expect, once it's released?
Yeah, I would ideally hope to create something where people can go through video clips already existing. What I mean to say is, I hope to curate the entire. There's a massive collection of anti-natalist content. Anti-natalist content on the internet. I'm hoping that somehow me and others, of course you also, Amanda, if we can curate this entire content and put it in a logical structure under different intensity levels when it comes to knowledge delivery. Beginners go to this content. If you're a new anti-natalist, if you're a new child-free person, this is where you begin. And then also add to the curated content, existing also adding to the existing curated content, add our own original content to it, and complete the picture is what I'm hoping to do. So take this this huge amount of content that is already available, put it in in an academic format under different levels, intensity levels. So that is what I'm hoping to do.
Will this be a free thing that people can engage in, or do you plan on charging people for it?
Marxist, so it's going to be free. You can't. It is criminal. It is criminal to charge a fee for education, healthcare, education, and food should not be. Don't bring profits into it. As a Marxist, I believe that.
You in our discussions about this project, recently, like you have some incredibly large ideas of like how to scale this up, like in the future. Like you really would like to eventually build like a real program, like a school almost. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, maybe, but what is the 5-year plan for this? What is the 10-year plan for this? I know you've spoken a little bit about that in the past, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah, since I'm already, I'm very passionate about academics. What I find lacking at the moment now is we don't have serious journals and serious research articles and academic content written by scholars on the topic of anti-natalism. I'm shocked that we don't have. We have so many philosophers who should be talking about these things. I don't understand why they're not talking about it, but I also know why, because we have not. It is time now. This is where we become into picture, where we try to create academic content, serious academic related researched content or push it online now, so that these popular philosophers, take notice and talk about this when they talk about suffering angle. Especially
Yes.
leftist philosophers. I mean, it's high time leftist philosophers talk about suffering and the cause of suffering and the problems of suffering. And anti-natalism is, for me, a backbone. Is a critical part when you talk about suffering of species. And I'm shocked that we are not. I mean, the philosophers are not talking about this until now. I think that is where, when you talk about the 5-year plan, that is where I hope we can get to a level there where philosophers start talking about the suffering problem and connect it to anti-natalism. So that's my dream. Let's see how it goes. Yeah.
What do you think the anti-natalist community is doing right so far? And what do you think the anti-natalist community is not doing very well yet? Where are our strengths and weaknesses, in your opinion?
Wow, that's a good question. The entire anti-natalism community, the content creators, are so energetic and so passionate in creating different, types of content and putting it out there on social media. That's amazing. And this has been happening for over a decade at least, of course, obviously. But then what I feel bad about is these different camps, anti-procreative camps like the VHMT, vegans, vegan anti-natalists, EFILists, throwing mud at each other on technicalities. So that is something which I wish that was avoidable. And one more thing which I want to bring out is that some of my leftist friends in India, they're not comfortable identifying themselves as anti-natalists, because they believe that the majority of anti-natalists are taking a very elitist and moralistic approach, which I agree with them. So I don't know how we can bring the suffering of the oppressed, the suffering of the underprivileged, more evidently voice out more about that in our forums. I think that is high time we do that. So that is one thing which I'm sad, because my leftist friends, even though they're anti-natalist, they're not part of this community.
Okay, well, that's pretty much all the questions that I had, prepared for today. I just have a quick closing statement, but I wanted to ask quickly, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or that we didn't get to that maybe I forgot to write some questions about? Was there anything that you wanted to say?
I think I pretty much covered it all. It's interesting. Mainly about the wars that happen in our social media groups, and the joy that I get in while reading some of the comments that some of our followers put there. So I think I've spoken. I didn't leave out anything. So I'm so glad that I got this opportunity to express myself. I'm so happy. Thank you, Anugra.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy too. I've really wanted to do this for such a long time, and it's just really wonderful to have this window into everything that you contribute to anti-natalism. I mean, you contribute so much of your time and energy and effort, and you really are a shining star of this community, and it's just, I'm so happy that we got to speak today. You are so talented, Anugra. It's been a pleasure working with you these last 10, 11 months. You've taught me really quite a lot, and I'm very grateful to you for that. I really don't think that Anti-Natalism International could have gotten to this point without everything that you put into it. So yeah, just thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for being my guest today on Exploring Antinatalism.
Yeah, I'm so happy. Yes.
Awesome.
Nice talking to you.
Make sure to follow Anugra on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please help support the efforts of both Childfree India and Anti-Natalism International, and make sure to visit the new child-free dating service, childfreelove.in. Links below. Hello everyone, it's Amanda. As many of you know, Anti-Natalism International is so proud to host the inaugural year of the Anti-Natalist Film Festival, a historic, first-of-its-kind event featuring the cinematic talents of the anti-natalist community and anyone else who wishes to participate. This is officially the first big initiative of Anti-Natalism International, and is honestly something that I've wanted to see happen for years now. The festival itself will be held the entire month of October 2021, And for this first year of the festival will be entirely an online screening event on the Anti-Natalism International website. In future years, however, we hope to be able to expand this event in several ways, not least of which is to make it a full, live, in-person event. So, are you thinking of submitting a video or film to the festival? Remember that the first early bird deadline to submit your film or video to the film festival on Film Freeway is March 31st. Please visit our links below to see the Film Freeway page with more info. Submission to the film festival is free. So thank you for listening, everyone. Can't wait to see what you all submit to the festival. Thank you so much, all the best, and bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Exploring Antinatalism Podcast. This has been Amanda Oldphan Sukenick and Mark J. Maharaj. You can find us on the YouTube channels Forever Wolf Films and Question Mark, respectively. Keep up with my daily antinatalist news updates at Antinatal News on Twitter. Please follow the Exploring Antinatalism Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and email us at exploringantinatalism@gmail.com. The podcast can be listened to on YouTube, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud. We have an RSS feed, and so many other platforms. Our website, www.exploringantinatalism.com, was designed by the amazing Visions Noirs. Please visit Visions Noirs at www.bionoir.com and also on Instagram. Logo by LifeSucks. Please subscribe to him on YouTube. And if you would perhaps like to order one of the new Exploring Antinatalism t-shirts by LifeSucks, then please visit him on Etsy. www.etsy.com/shop/LifeSucksPublishing. Our new amazing theme music is by I Doubt It. Please subscribe to him on YouTube, and please go check out episode 4 of the podcast for a detailed interview with I Doubt It. All the best, and bye for now.